Hello, everybody. Good evening and welcome, and thank you for joining us. I'm Adam Tobe. I am one of the founders of EDGAR, which is a charity that deals with Jewish and Israel education across the UK and other parts of the world. Over the past couple of weeks, we have seen some very distressing footage from Jerusalem and from Gaza, and from cities all around Israel where tensions between Arabs and Jews have been very high. At the same time, social media has been alight with a great deal of views posted from both sides, many of them very angry, and they're often condemnatory of Israel. Most of you, I'm sure, will have seen memes and messages about the conflict, as well as celebrity endorsements for one side or for the other. And it can feel that there's a great deal of anger and hate out there, which makes it difficult, if not impossible, to discuss these very complex issues in a nuanced way when there seems to be so much noise out there. We'd like to discuss these issues with four people who have a great deal of experience in social media. And we're going to be asking them about their experiences, as well as advice about how and when to engage with people on social media. So the first person I'm going to be speaking to is Matt Keston. Matt is somebody who's been involved in communications in the Anglo-Jewish community for many years. Recently, he moved to Israel. He's been studying international relations in Haifa University. And at the same time, he is a social media creator. He works with a company called Naz Daily, which is a major commercial creator of social media, which interestingly is owned by a Palestinian Arab. And the sort of videos that they put out have clocked up millions, if not billions, of views. So he has a great deal of experience. And I'll be putting questions to Matt that you've already sent in. If for any reason you have questions while we're going along, please feel free to use the Slido link or the QR code, which I think is coming up now at the top of the screen. That will take you to the Slido link if you want to put in any questions to ask any of the panelists. And the Slido link is 343974. So, in response to the conflict just recently, Matt posted a video online, which I think I would share with you now as an excellent introduction to him, as well as to the subject itself.
I hate you is the loudest message everyone is hearing and feeling right now on social media. If you have decided you know who is right and wrong, chosen a side, and use social media to express that in a hateful way, then you are a big part of the problem. Your message of hate is fueling more violence both here and around the world between different religious communities. No, the situation isn't simple like so many are trying to claim. It is very complicated, and you can support a better situation for both Israelis and Palestinians without spreading hate. Israel and its people are here to stay and won't accept living in fear of terror. Palestine and its people are also here to stay and want an official state to call their own. So we must find a way to live peacefully alongside each other as neighbours, just as Israel does with Egypt and Jordan. I say to you all, yes, you watching, if you want to post something about the situation on your socials, then post something helpful, not something that will lead to Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and more violence. Stop the hate! Call for peace. Because we will only achieve peace by both sides coming together, and not through hate that will pull us further apart. Salam, shalom, peace.
Matt, thank you very much. It's a really powerful video. It feels like a real cry from the heart. I'm wondering if you might tell us, why you chose to make it that way, and also what response you've had to it.
Thank you, Adam. Well, I chose to make it that way because so many people were reaching out to me on social media saying matters that aren't Jewish, aren't Muslim, that don't know anything about the situation in Israel-Palestine, apart from what they've seen on Sky News, BBC News, and most of which has been, there's rockets firing from one side to the other and people are dying. And no one knows what to say if they're not siding with someone. So when I actually posted an interview, I did an interview last week on TV that had about 40,000 views and was shared by people with blue ticks on social media with millions of followers. And a lot of them then took it down because they were attacked for putting it up, saying it was one-sided. And I reached out to those blue ticks, some people from, I won't mention names, but some people on Love Island, people on Made in Chelsea, people on Big Brother, okay? And I messaged a lot of them, and those took it down and said, why did you take it down? They said, look, I'm getting attacked. I'm just getting attacked. I want to put, if I want to put something up, I'm going to put something up. I want to put something that's completely in the middle. I don't know what's up. So I decided I'm going to make this video because, number one, so many people were crying out to me saying they were so horrified by the hate online. And also that they wanted to share something positive that called for peace, that was neutral, and I purposely put it in Hebrew, Arabic, and English so that as many people around the world as possible could see it. So far, I put it up 36 hours ago. So far, it's got 15,000 views. What I do need is, one of the reasons, obviously, my video last week got nearer to 100,000 is because blue tick shared it. So I'm hoping the blue tick share this one too in the coming days.
Are you going back to them to say, look, I've done this now?
Yeah, I have been going back to them. They are, of course, those scared now to post anything at all. And I've had hate on this post, of course, as well, from people that have decided that I'm trying to shut down support of one side by saying people should call for peace, which of course, is ridiculous in my opinion. And the majority of comments on my post has been extremely positive. People really happy, finally something they can share. So I'm really pleased. There's always going to be some haters.
Okay. One of the things that strikes me about social media is that numbers really, really matter. I mean, we measure success in some senses by the numbers that you receive. And I'm wondering now, on this particular round, we have seen the impact of celebrities and the celebrities being able to sort of leverage their huge access that they have. And what you think that is doing to the debate and the discussion and the impression people have of the Middle East situation?
I think it's very damaging overall, because quite simply, you have celebrities with millions of views putting out a narrative that this is a very simple situation. Let's take the negative towards Israel that's been put out. The narrative is Israel are bad, Palestine are good, Israel are killing children in Gaza, the end. That's pretty much the narrative. And of course that's harmful. It's over 100 years conflict, and you've put it into one picture, a few sentences. It's damaging. I've been studying the history of this conflict for the last 2 years, and there's still loads of things I can't get my head around. Politicians have been trying to solve this for the last 100 years and still haven't been able to. So how can a celebrity who's, let's be honest, taking advantage of their millions of views, put in one sentence what this conflict is all about? They are putting people in danger. And we've seen the outcome of that with violence around the world, not just in Israel, but on the streets.
Do you think, though, now that the situation has become such a bandwagon that there is no penalty to be paid by somebody, a celebrity, piling in and just simply saying, retweeting or adding their own comments? Or is there a way of saying, no, we can persuade people that this is complex?
Well, I do think that people have been held accountable. And one thing that people are able to do and have been doing is, if a celebrity that is clearly someone who is likely neutral, but sees just something on the news that I described before, people dying, so they post about it in a simple way, but the way they post, without realizing, they basically put out a hate message against Israel, and from that, people could be attacked. Loads of those people with the blue ticks, those celebrities, have been messaged by people with lots of explanations, lots of messages saying, look, it's not that simple. And lots of celebrities have taken their posts down, both things that were against Israel, things that were against the Palestinians in Hamas. They've taken it down. And a lot of the blue tick celebrities have decided now not to post anything at all, which is why, and that's the trend we're seeing the last few days. The first 2 days, they were posting loads. Suddenly, they were taking it all down. Now they're posting nothing, which is another reason, as I said, why I made this video, hoping that this is something exactly the sort of thing that they could share.
Okay. And do you think, when you get comments on your own site, first of all, how does it feel? And second of all, how do you react to it?
Okay, well, you need a very thick skin. You need a very thick skin. I get hate comments all the time, but it's overall, it's minimal unless I'm specifically targeted for a campaign of hate against me, because there has been a campaign on this video already. Within half an hour of me putting the video out, there was a campaign against me on Instagram where loads and loads of people tried to change the narrative of my video and say it was a hateful video against Palestinians. I mean, all I did in that video was call for peace, and for people to understand both sides. So, but they have decided that they don't want me to put that up. So I had hundreds of people trying to put comments, but I'm used to it. I know the situation. So if someone puts up a comment on my video, and they have, which is very middle ground, they're not really sure if they agree, I will respond to them. Those are the people to respond to. If someone is putting a load of hate on your video, those people are not worth responding to, because they have clearly already made up their mind, and it's not worth the effort. How does it make me feel, you ask me, Adam? I've got a very thick skin from doing this for years, and I don't care, is the answer. If I'm putting out a video, I know I'm helping people spread a positive message, I'm happy.
Do you think it matters, social media, in the sense of there is so much noise out there, and there is so much difficulty in changing the narrative? Is it really a sort of a lost cause, or is it something we really should try to engage?
No, we should try to engage it. It's not a lost cause. Social media has huge advantages and huge disadvantages. People can choose whether they put out a message of hate or whether they put out a message that is positive. We weren't born with hate. People were taught hate. We were born with love. So those people that were taught hate and are being taught hate about this specific situation and spouting it on social media, we must do everything we can to counter that. 99% of people, Adam, do not know hardly anything about the situation in Israel and Palestine. They don't. So if you're watching this now thinking, God, I really wanted to debate or speak back at someone on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, but I just don't have the knowledge, trust me, those people posting that stuff, 99% of them have no idea. They're putting out sound bites that they've heard from someone else. The 1% that know their stuff, they're feeding it. So that with that said, there's 99% of people that don't really know the situation, and in the end can learn something. And that is why I continue to put out as many positive messages as I can. And I encourage everyone watching to put out as many positive messages as they can to counter it.
So Matt, I'm really interested in that, just that last point that you made. You're somebody who is really out there, somebody who is prepared to, put your neck on the line, and you describe yourself as, I've got a thick skin, or at least, I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
What about people who are watching this, who have a social media account, but they're very worried about the abuse that they might receive if they put something positive about Israel on it, or if they engage with somebody over it? What would you say to them?
I would say to them that your favorite celebrities that you see all over the place, that sing, that perform, they get hate all the time. They really do. And they speak about it a lot. And let's be honest, guys watching, you've probably seen them talk about all the hate they've got. And some of them have been really, really affected by it, but they've had to learn to live with it. And at the end of the day, they know they're doing something positive. They're world famous. They have done good most of the time, right? Those people that we love, to get into the position that they have got into. So if you put yourself out there and do something to defend a cause that you know is right and positive and countering hate, if you get attacked by those people on the other side that want to hate you, then you should not be put off by putting out those messages. Haters gonna hate. You all know that message, guys. Expect it. Embrace it. I sometimes reply to them with love. I sometimes get involved in the conversations with some people. But I've been studying it and doing it for years, and I know when I reply to them, I'm going to get another barrage. But sometimes I know that when they reply, when they put stuff out, neutral people are also watching their stuff. So if I know they've literally put out a fake fact that's completely made up, like one very quick example yesterday, a very well followed Palestinian site put out a fake fact about the number of Israelis that have died compared to Palestinians. Now, I would never usually reply to this site. I watch it to see what they put out. But because they put out a fact that missed out 1,362 Israeli deaths from terror attacks between the year 2000 and today, I corrected them. And the people on that site that watch that will see that. And of course, the people that were horrified that I told the truth attacked me in their hundreds. And I had notifications nonstop last night because I don't care. Because I know that some people saw that, and the reply to them was Google it, I said, because you only have to Google how many Israelis have died in that situation. So I knew I was correct, and I knew anyone watching and seeing what I put could find it out for themselves.
It's really interesting, Matt, and I'm going to move to bring in some other people now, but I think the point that you make is really interesting, that the audience in social media is often not the direct person that you're speaking to, but the whole cluster of people around who may be watching that exchange. Exactly,
Adam.
So I want to bring in three more people, all of whom are involved in social media in different ways. So we've got Sophia Breslau, who has just graduated in political sciences and business management at Columbia University in New York. And she's a social media, she's active on social media. And she's also done a degree of Israel advocacy as well. We've got Jennifer Cohen, who is also a recent graduate, about to embark on a career in commercial law. She has a social media presence, in particular around issues of mental health. And she's also recently found herself advocating about the conflict and the issue of anti-Semitism. And finally, we have Natan Servi. And Natan is involved in particular in two key community organizations that are important for this discussion. One of them is Streetwise, which runs courses for young Jews about how to stay safe on the streets, but also online. And the other is the CST, the Community Security Trust, which looks after security at shuls and events, but also is now concerned about social media as well. So thank you, all of you, for joining us. I really appreciate it. Sophia, let me come straight to you. Can you tell us a little bit about your experiences online dealing with posts that you may have made about Israel or responses to other people's posts that you've made?
Yes. So I would say that especially now it's become, much more divisive online. In the past, I was able to have open conversations with people that had differing views and perspectives than me. Today, it's not as easy to do that. I do think, what Matt touched on, the fact that the conflict is being painted in such a black and white way, it's much harder to have these nuanced, detailed conversations. My experience has been mixed. Obviously, I've had negative experiences. For example, I recently told someone something they posted was anti-Semitic. They responded telling me I was brainwashed and then blocked me. And that's all I said. I just said, this is anti-Semitic, nothing else. But that warranted a block. At the same time, I have had, really good conversations with people with different perspectives. I've also had people, that aren't posting, but are watching, again, something Matt touched on, that are saying to me, thank you for sharing this. I didn't know this. Thank you for putting into words what I was thinking. So that has been like the most positive driver for me when posting online.
Can you give me an example of a conversation you might have had with somebody from the other side that you feel this was a positive conversation?
Yes. So I have a good friend of mine, actually, who also graduated from Columbia. She's originally from Lebanon, and we talk about the conflict actually all the time. And the difference when I speak to her is I feel there's less emotions involved. We, talk about the facts on the ground. We talk about our own experiences, our own exposure, and we're very respectful towards each other. We also have the benefit of seeing each other in person and having these conversations in person too, which I do think makes a big difference. The other conversations I've had that haven't been as pleasant are, ones that are really primarily online, and it's much harder to get across what we're trying to say on both ends.
And why do you do it, Sophia? What drives you to engage in these issues?
Yeah, for me, and I've thought about that a lot because, I don't know how familiar people are with the environment at Columbia, but it isn't so great. And I have a lot of friends who don't engage. I personally believe that I really have a duty to be posting and to knowing what I'm talking about and to be publicizing my support for Israel. I, have not joined the IDF. I have not sacrificed myself in that way. And yet I benefit from Israel immensely just by being a Jew, but also, going to Israel all the time and experiencing Israel. The least I can do from my perspective is research, support Israel, talk about things that might be uncomfortable for me. But if that's all it takes, then I think, that's my responsibility to do that.
Thank you. Jennifer, let me come to you. Jennifer, tell me a little bit about your experience online in relation to Israel advocacy, maybe over the last couple of weeks or so.
Yeah, I mean, it's been very hurtful, actually. And I know Sophia and I were talking about this just over a week ago, that I really tried to not get involved because usually, we're quite used to seeing this when there's, a flare up in Israel, and we're quite used to seeing the odd thing that gets posted online that's uncomfortable or it's anti-Semitic, but we sort of say to ourselves, well, no one will be thinking about this next week and it's not going to go anywhere. And just some people are idiots and we have to kind of allow for that. But this time it's felt very different. And I think, this is the first sort of flare up in Israel that we've seen during a period of social media activism where this is the norm and this is how people express their political views. Now social media is the place to do it, especially since BLM last year and so on. The narrative has become that actually you have to post something to show your support, otherwise your neutrality makes you complicit, and so on and so forth. So the experience that I've had on social media has been so different this time around than it was at any sort of flare up in the past.
Just if you can articulate what has been so different this time around. Just if you can explain, is it the volume? Is it the vociferousness?
Yeah.
What has been different this time? Jennifer, what has been different this time round?
Certainly the volume, without question. This is the first time that I've seen people even post about Israel aside from my Jewish friends. This is really the first time that I've seen it. And also it's shown to me how insidious the anti-Semitism is. And I'm seeing a lot of posts from people who I, consider my friends and people I know, and I'm learning things about them that I think I could have done without learning about them. And I think it's exposing a lot that we've sort of been able to ignore for so long. We sort of knew it was there lurking, and now it's coming out in the shape of infographics and, easy to share things on Instagram. And yeah, it's been very difficult.
Can I ask you this? Because I know one of the areas in which you blog and you write is in mental health. And a lot of people who are watching this online may also feel very disturbed by what they're experiencing online. On the one hand, you've got the point of view that Sophia has made, which is we have a responsibility, we should be engaged. But on the other hand, there may be a sense of maybe we should switch off. I'm really interested as to how you think we should navigate it from a mental health point of view.
Yeah, it's difficult to answer because I think, part of it is good for my mental health in that I think there's a catharsis in posting in a way. I feel like a lot of the time when we speak about Israel and we speak about anti-Semitism, it feels like screaming into a void and like no one is listening. And I've been able to use social media to have a lot of positive conversations with people that have actually balanced out a lot of the negativity in a way. But that said, last week I deactivated my account because I was just so overwhelmed by it all. And I decided, I can't look at it anymore because every time I see something, I do feel the need to respond. I feel like I can't kind of let it slide. So the best way is to just not look at it. And I think a lot of my friends, my Jewish friends especially, have gone back and forth in the same way. And I think that's all right. I don't think there's a pressure. Well, there shouldn't be a pressure to respond.
Have you ever suffered some, the equivalent of cancelling or the sense of being shunned by groups of individuals online?
I don't think I'm important enough to be cancelled.
Okay.
I don't think anyone cares about me.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Certainly trolling. I've had a lot of that.
A lot of trolling. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Natan, let me come to you. Natan, I know that you're involved with these two very important organizations, which is Streetwise and the CST. Do you have a sense of how big the issue is over the past couple of weeks, the social media? Can you give a sense of it? How much noise that there is out there?
Hi, Adam. Thank you. It's a difficult question. It's a difficult question specifically because the CST is monitoring incidents of anti-Semitism constantly and does it on a regular basis. And whenever conflicts and whenever there are flare-ups in the Middle East, there are great increases in numbers of incidents. And so we will have a clearer picture of what the social media aspect of these incidents looks like in probably a few weeks' time.
Okay. Okay. Let's leave it there then. Rather than guess, but we know that it's significant. We've seen this flare up.
Well, we know that in the 10 days up to last Thursday, there was a 500% increase in anti-Semitic incidents just in the UK.
Are you talking about physical incidents in the streets?
Physical and online.
Online. Okay, fine.
And the online numbers were not yet completely accounted for because of the sheer quantity, obviously.
Okay. Do you have any useful rules for people about whether they should or should not engage with individuals online?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I just want to go back for a second to a question that you asked Matt earlier. And you asked him, does social media matter? And I think part of our work is dealing with online safety, and we do lots of online safety training in schools at all levels in British schools. There's a study actually by the Safer Internet Day organization that came out this year that says that 25% of 8 to 17-year-olds trust online content more than traditional media.
Right.
So, and this is a serious survey. It's not just made up. So the answer to the question is yes. The answer is social media does matter a huge amount. There's a lot to say about online incidents and offline incidents. I hope you'll ask me a question about offline incidents in a second. But in terms of online stuff, I think it's really important for young people to understand what constitutes anti-Semitism and what constitutes anti-Israel or anti-Zionist language and rhetoric. And I think the differentiation between those two is crucial in being able to identify and then report. And on a very basic level, whenever there is content that is representing a message, for example, a flag of Palestine by itself, or a flag of Palestine in a pro-Palestinian demonstration, is not anti-Semitic. When this flag of Palestine is pinned in front of a Jewish shop or in front of Jewish students or young people or Jewish people in general, then it becomes anti-Semitic. And I think this also applies to post and content online, whereas we've seen, and the CST has already reported on a number of instances where Jewish young people have, and adults obviously, have been sent content, therefore incurring in anti-Semitism. And so,
okay. Natan, let me come in there. So if people see content that is disturbing, or they are sent content that is disturbing, that they think is anti-Semitic or that is clearly anti-Semitic, how should they respond? Should they respond directly to that person, or should they do something else?
Great. So it's really quite simple, and any young person that does any online safety learning and training knows how to do this. You would screenshot the content and so keep trace of it. You have absolutely every right to block that person. If it's harmful or hateful content, you should absolutely block that person after you've screenshotted it. You should report it to social media. And just to clarify, CST, just like ourselves, have ongoing relationships with all the social media providers. And so if some content is deemed to be anti-Semitic, it will be taken down if it's reported to the social media providers and the CST directly.
And we're just seeing at the moment at the bottom, I don't know if you can see, there's a scroll here.
Yeah.
So there's a 24-hour CST sort of report line, emergency line, which is the 0800 number, or you presumably can go on the CST website there, UK/report, if there's anything. So do not engage, take a screenshot, forward it to this website, and then block the individual. There is no point engaging.
Well, I'm sure there is a point in engaging in safe situations and in and if safe spaces for conversations about Israel-Palestine want to be carried out. I'm sure that young people who are confident and who learn about the topic can engage. Just want to add a couple of things that I think are really important. We see a lot of anti-Semitic content that is being shared amongst the Jewish community. And this is really not providing any solutions. The reality is that I want to show my friends this tweet or this meme that I've seen. All we're doing is raising the profile of that content. All we're doing is making it more likely to be viral. So actually report it and don't share it. And I think there's another component, just a second, is that young people often don't think that online content is harmful, or see a difference between street-based attacks or things online. And actually, this is really not the case. And we have plenty of proof that serious attacks against different communities have started with online content. And so don't make that judgment. The answer is get the professionals to make their judgment, report it first, and make sure that somebody who knows about this content is able to evaluate the seriousness.
That's brilliant. So if in doubt, forward it, but don't make the judgment yourself necessarily. Matt, I'd like to come back to you and sort of get your thoughts on what we've heard from our, from the other three panelists. Has anything specifically struck you about the things that we've heard so far?
Yeah, I would add one thing on top of what's been said, especially around the conversation of sharing things, whether you engage in the conversation. A few years ago, there weren't so many fake profiles around. The last war that Israel involved in 2014, there weren't fake profiles. And Instagram in 2014 was just for pictures back then. We didn't have videos. It wasn't the same thing it is now. And we didn't have TikTok. And what I would say is this: 9 times out of 10, the people that write comments to me are under a fake identity or a fake profile. And it's very obvious from the name. They don't have a picture, or they don't have their own picture. They have like a cartoon picture, and they have a funny name. So those people are never, ever worth replying to, because often they use the fake identity to be able to say whatever they want and get away with it, including things that are extreme, that are Islamophobic and anti-Semitic. So those people, so specifically, I don't ever waste my time on, and I would tell people not to waste their time on them. But people that do have a profile, maybe someone maybe someone you're surprised that they're sharing it, maybe you have an inkling that maybe they've just been fed information that you feel is one-sided, or you can show them the other side. Those people, for sure, have the conversation, have the dialogue, because as I say all the time, and I said in my video, the only way we will achieve peace, or we will make anyone understand, is by people coming together through dialogue. And people hating each other just pulls each other further apart. So if there is an opportunity for dialogue, you should always take it if you think there could be a positive outcome.
Fantastic. Sophia, I'd like to come to you. Jennifer made a very interesting point, which was about discovering things about friends that I hadn't quite imagined. So a lot of this at the moment is the anonymous aspect of social media. But I'm really interested about your ideas on engaging people who you might know, either, for example, through your college and so on, people who you're encountering. Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Should you do it on social media? Should you try and do it offline? Personally, I'm just interested in your experiences and your thoughts on it.
Yeah, and do you mean engaging with people who are already posting about the conflict, or friends that I have that aren't saying anything and talking to them about what's going on?
I'm really interested in both of those. So in other words, people who are actively posting, and also people who are friends, but you're not quite sure what their views are, but they're obviously watching what's going on.
Yeah, so in terms of the first aspect, those that are posting, In terms of engaging with them, I tend to focus on two things before I engage. Firstly, what are they posting? If it's anti-Semitic or if it's factually incorrect and I can answer it quite shortly with resources, then I'll be willing to have that conversation. And I think those are good conversations to have. The second thing I look for is who's posting. So as you mentioned, if it's a good friend, if it's someone I think I can have a conversation with, based off of what they've posted before, based off of if I've had a conversation with them in the past, then I'll choose to engage with them there. And I do think those are productive conversations and those are worth having. But, kind of touching on what Jen said, being mindful of your mental health and how draining this is, you have to really choose who and what you engage in. And then the second aspect, in terms of my friends who aren't posting, I haven't been reaching out to them. I haven't, a lot of them, a huge majority of my non-Jewish friends haven't said anything to me, even about anti-Semitism. And I haven't confronted them about that. However, in person, throughout my life, specifically, at Columbia, I'm very vocal about where I stand with Israel. I talk about Israel very openly. I don't shy away from showing my support. And I think that's really important because when people want to talk about it or want to have a conversation, they do come to me and say, can you explain this to me? What's happening? Because they know that, the views I already have and that I am engaged already. So.
Fantastic. Jennifer, can I come to you? There's one question I'd really like to get your thoughts on, which is about the tone of the conversation that you aim to have on social media. I'm just interested as, what tone works well? Is a warm tone, is a hostile tone, is a blunt tone, is a friendly tone? What do you find is the best way of getting through to people?
I like to think I'm quite friendly anyway, but I'm always very tentative with how I approach it. Only because a lot of the people who I've spoken to when I've corrected them on something, they can't get defensive if I haven't been aggressive. They can only be open to what I've said. And I think that, dialogue, the other person feeds off of your tone. So if you don't want to get an aggressive response, don't send an aggressive message. And I've had a lot of really positive conversations that have come out of that. And I think what's great about that is that there are a lot of people now in my messages who I have an ongoing conversation with. So when they post something else that I think is also, again, problematic for whatever reason, and I message them about it again, they feel like, I think they don't think, oh, here's another pro-Israel person coming to tell me that it's anti-Semitic. They think, actually, we had a really productive conversation last time and I'm willing to learn. So certainly quite, I do tiptoe quite a lot and I say, oh, well, I understand why you would have thought this and so on.
Just out of interest, do you read your posts back to yourself before you press send? In other words, are you very careful? In other words, are they crafted or are they going from the hip?
They're very crafted and they often go to multiple people before they get sent. Yes, they get proofread, they get fact checked.
That is fascinating.
But I think that's so important for us. And actually, this is another thing Sophia and I talk about a lot, that we always feel like as Jewish people who are obviously pro-Israel, we have to constantly defend ourselves and we cannot let ourselves slip up because people will latch on to absolutely anything. So I am extremely careful about what I write. And actually, one of the things I was going to say was that if you're going to get involved on social media, if you feel yourself getting overwhelmed, angry, frustrated, you have to take a step back, because if you're going to post from that place, you risk feeding into really harmful narratives. You risk feeding into misinformation. I know I've done it. So I think better to never come from that place.
That's fantastic. And in fact, what I want to do is I want to wrap up with one piece of advice from each of you. So Jennifer, I'm happy to take that one from you, which is to be very careful. But if you have something else that you want to add, but I'm very happy to say that I think it's an incredibly important point, the idea that actually these are not simply I'm responding emotionally immediately, but I'm actually carefully crafting my message. I think it's incredibly important message that you've given. Let me come to Natan. Natan, what one piece of advice would you give to young people who are out there who may not yet have engaged at all in social media, but are obviously fully aware of how it has exploded online?
So I would say what we say at the end of all of our sessions, which is, if you want to have a conversation about Israel or about anti-Semitism or about Jewish culture or history, you need to learn your material before you engage in that conversation. And actually just passing on things that you've heard from other people, there's no point in that. You need to know your facts, and you need to know how to respond in a civilized and peaceful manner. And if you see or experience anything that you think is problematic, tell an adult and report it to the social media and the CSD.
So you managed to squeeze in 2 points there, Natan. So the first obviously is, if you see something, report it. If you've got a doubt about it, report it, because somebody else will look at it and say, okay, I can tell you this one is within the line, or this one falls outside the line. And then the other thing is that you should know your content. And on that, by the way, it's often difficult to know where to turn. There is so much content online. One of the things I would mention is a site called JewishUnpacked.com, which I think actually has very balanced and very interesting material. I think it's actually worth looking at. I've tried to offer something which I think is neither right wing nor left wing, but is fairly centrist. There's lots of other material out there, but it's one that I have found personally I think is quite useful. Sophia, let me come to you. One piece of advice for our listeners today. What would you close with?
Yeah, and firstly, I actually was also going to bring up Jewish Unpacked. I think they're a great resource, and they're not just on social media. They have YouTube videos and a website, so they're great. But my advice, what I was saying before about having a duty, I don't just mean we have a duty to post blindly or whatever we see our friends posting. I believe we have a duty to take the time to research, to have conversations, to really know what we're talking about, and then post. If you feel comfortable doing that. I think what I've been seeing a lot from both sides, I guess, are posts that have misinformation, or they're very generic and throw around certain terms quite loosely. I've seen the term apartheid and ethnic.
I think we might have briefly lost Sophia there. Okay, I will come back to Sophia. Sophia, I'm so sorry. I think we lost you very briefly there. So you were mentioning that words are bandied around like apartheid state and this sort of thing, and then we lost you. So if you finish that thought.
Yeah, I was just saying, on the other side, I've also seen anti-Semitism being thrown around quite loosely. So I do think being mindful of what you're posting and researching what you're posting is very, very important in order to have a productive conversation.
Great. Thank you, Sophia. If anything, actually, the one positive thing that might come out of this, or one of the positive things that may come out, is that people will be better informed, or will feel that they have to be better informed. Matt, can I come to you finally? I started with you. I'll close with you. One thought, one piece of advice that you might give people who are listening and watching today.
Okay, so guys, nobody expects you to be the ambassadors of Israel. No one expects you to know everything. But if you come at it from a human level, people can spout at you, Israel are doing this wrong, Israel are doing this wrong. There's a script that often I see the same arguments, the same things thrown at me. And you will see it on your social media, and you will be outraged at some of the stuff, and you will be tempted to reply quickly. Maybe you don't have all the information to reply, but you're annoyed to reply in an aggressive nature, maybe, just because it's upset you so much. My advice to you is not to do that. Is to come back calmly. If you're not sure on what to reply, ask someone who you think knows. Lots of resources have been mentioned today. I'm also happy for anyone. I spend half my time replying to stuff and half my time replying to people that reach out to me on my social media, and I'm on all of them, and send me stuff that they've been sent and said, Matt, like, what do you think is the response here? What's the right thing to say? At the end of the day, to move forward in this whole situation, people have to come together, just like Israel and Palestine and its leaders, to solve this situation one day, and it will happen. It will happen, guys. One day they will come together and there will be peace. So that's my piece of advice. Come together with people in a positive way. Look towards peace. Have those positive dialogues. And if you're not sure what to say, you don't need to say anything. No one expects you to know everything. You don't have to go off now and do loads of research. Reach out to people you think might be able to help, but keep that message of peace going.
Matt, it's a really powerful message that you've ended with. In a sense, what you're saying is that we need to model the behaviors that we're hoping that we will find in the Middle East between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Let's not exacerbate the problem. Let's not exemplify the worst of what we see out there, but let's try and demonstrate and be an example of what can be the best. Guys,
Exactly.
I know you all must feel that what you're doing is, just simply the thing that I feel I should be doing. But I want to tell you from a personal point of view, and I believe from everybody who is watching this, we are very grateful for the people who do stand up on behalf of Israel. It is not straightforward to do that. You do put yourself in the firing line, and having done so, you have to some degree got used to it. There are people out there who are worried and concerned about whether they should or they shouldn't engage. And your example, I think, has given a lot of people potentially the courage to say, maybe I will reach out and maybe I will try and have a conversation with somebody who is prepared to listen. So for all of your contributions, we are enormously grateful. We wish you success in everything that you do. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight.